Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. Today we are looking at the London ePrix, which finished a few hours ago, I think. I don't really know what time it is now. But this again was a really exciting race. The penultimate round of Formula E, and we still don't really know who is going to be champion. It's incredibly wide open. There are people who have not won races yet, who you'd expect they would, and if they do, they'll probably be champion. But again, we had two races of complete carnage. So much going on. We're not going to cover everything because otherwise this video would be about 4 hours long. But as I said, if you're not watching Formula E right now, you really should be. It has been the best motor racing series of 2021, just in terms of excitement per race. There's always something going on somewhere in a Formula E race, and they are definitely worth watching. So if you haven't, remember to subscribe now, and let's begin.
Welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport.
I don't really know where to start because there's quite a lot to cover. We might not go through all the race, but as I said, if you haven't watched this yet, watch it now and then watch this, because I am going to spoil bits for you, and it is definitely worth watching. Firstly, the track, partly indoors, partly outdoors, but we had the indoor track, which was interesting. It was an interesting look, and it really works. It was in the XL Centre in London. Great idea, and as I said, Formula E, the nature of it, you can sprout a track up pretty much anywhere, and you can do interesting things like this. It's very video gamey, and that's what's really cool about Formula E, that you can basically have any kind of track anywhere. And we had the really stunning backdrop of Brooklyn a couple of weeks ago. This week we had the XL Centre and the London Docks. It was good stuff. So, mixed up grid. As I said in the last video, just expect that as normal in Formula E, but again, a lot of the front runners were at the back, and a lot of the big names did not have a good weekend. Yeah, in the first race alone, we lost Sam Bird and Mitch Evans pretty early on to various incidents. Gunther and Verne both had penalties, so they were at the back. We had cars tripping over each other all over the place. Degrassi hit De Vries. They somehow both hit Sete Camera. And Sete Camera definitely came off worse. He ended up dropping back after a pretty good qualifying session for Dragon. Sete Camera looked like he could have got a top 10 at any time this weekend and didn't. But Dragon have good qualifying pace, but they don't seem to be able to hold on during the races, which is to do like the groups in the qualifying, helping them out. Does not work for them in the races. So yeah, so the first big winner of the weekend was Jake Dennis, who won the first race, moved into second in the championship. Now, if you said at the start of the year Jake Dennis was going to be second at any point in the Formula E Championship, I would not have believed you. He seemed to be a desperate, mediocre driver who was simply signed to fill a slot as the team took their step out of Formula E. He has been a revelation. He's actually really good. I hope he can find a seat to continue in Formula E, because he really deserves it. This is his second win of the year. There's only two other drivers who have done that, which is De Vries and Sam Bird, who are high caliber drivers. So Jake Dennis has done a fantastic job for BMW. Andretti will be in the sport next year, it looks like. Hopefully they retain Jake Dennis, because he's definitely worth a shot. De Vries finished second, and this was a double point scoring for Mercedes, which they desperately needed. De Vries had a fantastic weekend, actually. Back in title contention. In fact, he's leading the championship at the end of the second race, so this is as good as it gets for Mercedes this year. I mean, at the start of the year, it looked like they had pace, and then it suddenly dropped off over the last three races, or three rounds. Now they seem to have it back at the right time of the year, so Nyck de Vries is definitely odds-on favourite, I would say, to win the championship. Van Dorn's too unlucky. What happened in the second race was not his fault, but he did score points in the first race. Buemi actually got on the podium, which is the first podium for him this year, which again is insane to think, but he was disqualified, so again Buemi scored no points. And as he was my pick for the championship, I really should not pick champions. Like, if I pick you, you're going to lose. Just ask Mitch Evans last year. But yeah, Mercedes were the big winners. There was points for Da Costa as well. which aided his championship. But the likes of Vries, Bird, Evans, who else? Mortara, Cassidy, Verne didn't score points. That's a lot of the front runners in the championship. So again, after this race, it was all switch around once more. Going into the second, Sims and Blomqvist got into trouble early on, and they did not have good weekends. Buremi and Rast had a really weird accident that brought out the safety car. Rast was damaged on the spot, and Buremi, I think, got a drive-through. Didn't see him for the rest of the race, and again, Buremi scored 0 points. So his year, I think he's only managed 2 point scoring finishes, and neither of them that impressive. After that, there was another incident with Andre Lotterer, who is getting a reputation for someone who drives into people, and Antonio Felix da Costa. Lotterer basically squeezed him against the wall. Not a great move. And he, as I said, he's getting a reputation for that, which is weird because I'd have thought Andre Lotterer is one of the better, most consistent, conservative drivers out there. A Formula 1 driver in the past for one race. And one of the best sports car drivers around. He's a Le Mans winner. To see him gain this reputation as someone who's a bit of a car wrecker, not good. And Porsche still not won a race. They haven't had a great year. Lotterer has had an awful year. I think he's one of the drivers who you would probably look at being replaced next year. But Pascal Wehrlein did a good job. He scored points again this weekend. It's not been a grand season. It's definitely had its low points for Porsche. But I think Pascal Wehrlein has done a good job for the team. That brought out the safety car. And what was interesting about the safety car was Lucas di Grassi went through the pit lane. Now, he did stop very briefly. But because the safety car was out, it's actually faster to go through the pit lane. He jumped out in the lead from like 8th place. So it looked like a great strategic call on someone's part to do it. And it looked like it might give Lucas di Grassi the win. In fact, it technically did on the track. But he was given a drive-through penalty which he ignored. And then he was black flagged and disqualified. This looked like a big mistake in the end because it's probably worth it because they weren't really on to score many points. And I don't think Lucas di Grassi's really in with a shout in the championship. But if this was pulled off and Lucas di Grassi did win the race, it would be the cheekiest race win ever. No one else thought of it. I think they said someone did a race in Hong Kong once and the rules changed. But still, if he had pulled it off and it had been allowed, it would be the greatest move in motorsport history. I'm kind of sad it didn't, like, it got called a disqualification because I'd love to see it actually work. It's crazy idea, just drive through the pit lane, jump in front of the queue. But it didn't work out in the end, and that led to Alex Lynn winning. But we'll get to that. Roland and Van Dorn got together, which, as I said, Van Dorn is not very lucky. He's been driven into so many times this year. He would probably be in championship contention if you took out the several accidents he's been involved in that weren't his fault. He would get involved in another one afterwards as well. De Vries took the lead, but de Grassi got back past him on attack mode, as did Alex Lynn. I said Van Dorn got in trouble again. We had Bird and NATO crash towards the end, but they somehow managed to untangle themselves and carry on. But Bird, no points this weekend, and he's lost the championship lead, although I think he's still in third. Alex Lynn took his first win in Formula E. I think the first win for Mahindra in a couple of years. I think Jerome D'Ambrosio took the last one. I think it was 2019, possibly. It might have been last year, I can't remember. But this was a great result for Alex Lynn. And I think he's like the 12th or 13th winner in 15 races. How many? Actually, I don't even know what round this was. Was it 13? So is it 10 winners in 13 races? That's insane when you think Virgin, Porsche and Nissan have not won a race this year. So there's at least 6 more possible winners out there. Possibly more than that. De Vries finished second. He takes the championship lead. He's going to be hard to beat if Mercedes have that pace in Berlin. But given that Mercedes have really been on and off all year, can't guarantee it. It's Robin Freins in second, and he's only like 6 or 7 points behind him. And he's had a great consistent year. He hasn't won a race yet, so if that's due to come, he will probably be champion. Freins is a great driver, and I think it'd be a shame for Sam Bird if Virgin win it without him, but Virgin do deserve to win a championship. And this is a crazy year, so it would be the year to do it. Da Costa scored points in the first race, but not many. And Vern didn't score any all weekend, so Cheetah did not have a good weekend. Jaguar didn't have a good weekend. Mortara, I think he scored a couple of points, but not loads. So Venturi didn't have a great weekend. Honestly, it's still incredibly wide open. I think Mercedes and Jaguar are leading the constructors. I don't think there's many points in it between like the top 5. In terms of a drivers' championship, honestly, I think I looked at it and basically the top 20 can still win the championship. One man who can't is Sebastian Buemi, who was my pick at the start of the year. I think he mathematically cannot win now. And he's still behind Nico Müller in the championship, despite the fact that Nico Müller hasn't been at the last 3 rounds. So I don't think, 7 races or so, yeah. So even though Nico Müller hasn't done half the championship, he's still ahead of Sebastian Buemi in the title race. Not great. Realistically, I think you're looking at the top 7 or 8, maybe 9. It's still very, very close. And honestly, with so much happening at every race, anyone can be champion. Nyck de Vries is in the driver's seat. He is followed by Vries and Bird. They're all very good. They could all win. Honestly, I cannot call who's going to win this championship. Same goes for the constructors. I'd like to say Mercedes easily, but in Formula E you cannot guarantee anything. And I wouldn't be entirely surprised if Jake Dennis ends up winning the Drivers' Championship and Mahindra the Constructors. It's that crazy, and that open as well. Jake Dennis is only like, I think 6th or 7th of the championship. Alex Lynn's only, I think Alex Lynn's 6th, so Dennis is around there as well. They're not that far off the championship lead. Another good race can see them right up there, and that would be an amazing achievement. But there is no consistency to the standings at all, at any point this year. It's been insane. If you haven't watched any of it, go back and watch all of it. Get ready for Berlin, because it's going to be a spectacular race. But I would say Berlin's not a great season ender. I'd have had Berlin before London and Brooklyn. I'd have probably ended the championship in Brooklyn, to be honest. It's the best skyline for a championship finale. And this race with the inside bit, this was pretty cool too. So to have Berlin, London and then Brooklyn to end it, probably would have been better. But we have Berlin to finish for championship. I think it's only in a couple of weeks. I'll be covering, there'll be more Formula E videos coming out. So keep an eye out for those. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do it. I will be doing more content. Next week there should be more. This week was kind of busy. And I'm getting used to this new setup. So hopefully you'll stick around. Like and share the video. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment. And have a good one.